Hey, what's up, you guys? My name is Supersnov, and welcome back to LEGO Arts. In the last episode, we did a showcase on Power Rangers Dino Thunder. Now, this episode, we're going to do a solo minifig showcase featuring Kafka, or Kaiju No.8. So I've really been enjoying the anime so far. I've been keeping up with it since the premiere, and it looks really cool. I like the design for Kaiju No.8. And decided to go ahead and put together the solo minifig of it, and I think it turned out really great. Really great. There's a couple of fixes that I would want to go in later on, but I'll explain that as we get further in. For now, I really like how this turned out. This was a fun figure to put together, and something nice to work on while I've been making progress on the Halo project, as well as still finalizing plans for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Now, as you guys know the drill, we're going to take this minifigure to review it, explain the process, why we ordered it out, and then go from there. So without further ado, let's get the pedestal out and get the showcase on the road. So having a closer look at this minifigure, you can really see a lot of sculpting work really went into this one. And in this one, compared to some of my other figures that I've done, this one would probably have to be, the second most complicated detailing that I've had to do, besides from Cyborg from Zack Snyder's Justice League. But some of the stuff that I went through with this one is that for the base body, I used a spare knockoff Mr. Fantastic minifigure, a figure that I got a while back that I think I was going to use for, a Transformers project, but never really could fully figure it out. So I had it kept in storage for a while, and decided to use that as sort of the base body for Kafka, as in his kaiju form, he's a couple feet taller than an average human, at least. So I definitely wanted to incorporate that for this one. So what I did was, for the overall design, I pretty much kept intact, with the arms and legs. They didn't have to be altered too much. Some of the stuff that I did do, however, was that around with the torso, I extended up the torso a little bit by putting in some clay in between the hip and the torso. So we go ahead and can move this a little bit. You can kind of see a little bit of clay in between where the hip joint is connected to the torso. And then at the same time, I expanded on the neckline a little bit, because his head is slightly taller in the anime. So I wanted to add that on into it, but still leave enough room to where I could reattach the head pretty easily. Some of the stuff that I also did, as you can see, I carved out each individual muscle onto him, started up from the top and went all the way down to the bottom. I did have to do it sort of layer by layer, as well as wait for each of the pieces to dry, so that way that when adding it on to the next bits, I didn't accidentally mess up some of the previous work that I had already done, which definitely saved help, and definitely saved some time of putting it together. With the legs and the arms, I made sure that there was enough room for articulation. He can't fully bend all of his legs due to the clay already dried up on the legs, and a little bit on the waist, but that's all right because he still has enough articulation. And with the arms, both of them still have the articulation. I did have to go back though and re-sand down a little bit. I made sure to sand down on both the torso and the inside of the arms, to provide articulation, and so that the paint wouldn't chip off too badly. I also painted on a little bit on the inside muscles, skin muscles. So I guess you would call it, I don't know what I'm saying, but basically added more onto the detailing on each of the arms on the inside of it to just give it a little extra detailing. On the back. We did some sculpting work on here that I also did that in layers. First did the base layer there, then carved in the details on the design, then added in some clay underneath that, carved it in, individually sculpted out each of these spikes for the spine, and worked my way down and around, and it came out pretty good. I had almost considered of doing a little bit of sculpting work on inside of the legs. As you can see, I made sure to do some of the sculpting work on here to match it up with how he is on the anime, but leave enough room to where he still has articulation, then carved it out. But I almost considered of trying to attempt to do some sculpting on the inside of the legs just for fun. But I would have to make the clay skinny enough to put that on to keep up with the detailing, as well as make sure that it wouldn't interfere with the gap in between for the legs so they can move. So that was something that I had to kind of scratch out there. Here, the head had some of its own sculpting stuff. Was what I did. I carefully sculpted around with the face and sculpted around with the eyes, leaving them exposed, and focusing more detailing towards the back of the head, and again just doing it by layers, layers, like starting it from the bottom and then going all the way to the top, which actually worked really well in my favor. And then thinned out some clay to sculpt on the skull mask face, for it, as well as like with the horns, and carefully like just added it on here, and then did some tiny bits of clay and the clay underneath with the jawline, as sort of like that extra bone piece in the design of the character, and went back and did some of the paint work. I'll say though that this was probably doing the detailing paintwork was probably some of the trickier stuff, especially of doing the teeth. Like I had to go back and remake those a couple of times before finally getting it into a shape that's passable. Like I think in order to do that, you would need a very, very, very thin point, like probably something even more than the push pin, which would be very, very difficult. But definitely. Just working on those, it was much easier to paint those on instead of trying to sculpt them out, as previous experiences with stuff like Venom has taught me that sculpting out teeth, especially that size, is very difficult. So definitely wanted to go for the more plausible option while still making it look somewhat good. And another difficult thing that I had to do was with these individual lines like underneath with the details for his toes as well as his hands. I say that this is difficult because the paint that I was working with was a little bit sloppy, so I have to work with a little bit more. And I also tried to not damage the dark gray too badly, because I was mixing in a combination with like already a dark gray with some more black, but each combination that I did, it kept getting in a different shade every time. So I wanted to try to minimize the amount of times that I would have to mix in the paints together, while still like keeping up with accuracy for the overall design of the figure. So definitely that played a factor into that. But aside from that, this did turn out pretty cool. It was a fun figure to put together. I do like how this turned out in the end. And I thankfully didn't have to destroy the minifigures too much like I've had to do with some other obscenely complicated design characters that I've had to do in the past. This was definitely took in a lot of sculpting work to do into this one, but I am proud with how it turned out right now, and this was a fun figure to put together. And there we go. That's going to do it for this episode of LEGO Arts. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This was a fun minifigure to put together. I'm really proud with how this turned out, apart from some of the minor stuff that I mentioned with the paint work and whatnot. And so aside from that, this was a really fun minifigure and I like doing these kinds of projects because it allows me to not only practice more with my sculpting work, but also gives me a bit more creativity to really work into it. So at the end of the day, I'm happy with how this turned out, and I hope to do another one like this in the future. Speaking of which, showcase stuff, I recently got some parts that just came in for the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth project, so I'm going to be using those to work on that showcase. And I just finished doing some updates with the Blue Team remakes for the upcoming Halo showcase. So hopefully that will be done pretty soon. I'm really excited to get to the paintwork on that one, on those ones. In terms of gameplay, I could technically continue on with the live streams that I've been doing with re-experiencing some more PlayStation 5, more on the PlayStation 5. So I might go back to that pretty soon. But in the meantime, I think I'm just going to be like focusing my work more into the showcases for the time being. But rest assured, we will be back with like some regular stuff soon. And overall, that's going to be it. So if you guys want to see more videos like this in the future, please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell for notifications. It really helps us work last place, like robotics, and might have some fun. So overall, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, hit that like button, comment below, share, subscribe to YouTube, follow me. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you next time in the next video. Goodbye!